My friend, welcome to the world's best kept secret podcast, the podcast that shows spiritual entrepreneurs how to clarify their message and then how to turn that clarity into revenue. I'm your host, Prima Jope, a mentor and message expert since 2020. Whether you seek to simply clarify your message or feel ready to monetize your brilliance, this is your safe space for actionable guidance and practical tools on how to turn your woo into predictable revenue. Let's get started, shall we? Welcome once again to this very episode on the Best Kept Secret series. And with me today is a beautiful, beautiful woman, Marion Nixon. Now, we're going to talk about all things stepping into the life you deserve boldly without hesitation. A lot of women, especially in midlife after 40, are held back by limitations. They're held back by lack of confidence. They're held back by, I'm not enough, I'm not good enough, I'm too old, I'm too this and too that. And today we're going to really talk about that. How can you boldly step into the life without limitations? How can you boldly step into the life that you want? How can you get out of your own way? Because it's not too late and it's not too early, it's just the right time. But a lot of women are in this phase where they feel either they are too late or they are not enough or whatever. They are not too educated, they are not too confident, they are not too wise. I don't know what the objection is there. But there's a lot of things you want to get here and you're here. And there's a lot of things why you cannot get there. And my speaker today, what she really does is dissolve this part so that you can get out of your own way and allow your dreams to come to life. So if you feel like you've put your dreams on a bench, now is the time. Pull your stool, pull your tea, pull your coffee, and let's dive in. If you feel like really your life is being driven by everybody else but you, now is the time. If you feel like you can't do the things you want to do, can't wear the clothes you want to wear, can't do, even if you're in business, like you can't do video because you don't feel you're good enough, like who said? We're going to really deal with these limitations and talk to them in a way that you can see that if Marion could do it, you can do it too. And I don't want to speak further. I want to bring her up. And before we do that, at any point when you feel like you want to hop off for whatever reason, think about who is the one person that needs to get out of their own way. And I want you to get this and share it with them in their private space and just say, I saw this and I thought about you. So I'm going to interview Marion about her work, about who it's for, about what she does, about how she does it. And I'm going to interview her about the process of doing that. And through that, I'm hoping that you're going to decide this work is for you or if you know someone that this work is for. Because this is an intuitive podcast, which means everyone that comes on this podcast is coming here for a reason. Either the message is for you or you know someone that is 1 degree separation from you that deserves to hear this message because their life depends on it. Marion, welcome to the podcast. It's my honor to have you today.
Thank you. And I'm honored to be here.
I want to dive into all of the things you do. First of all, let me know, what's the problem that is holding a lot of women back from going after the dreams that they have?
Very often when we're young, we're socialized into things that other people expect of us. And we start to believe that those are what we want. Those are the goals that we want. And around midlife, I found that women start to reevaluate their lives. And sometimes they find that actually they had dreams that they've half forgotten because they were so busy doing whatever they've been doing in the meantime, or that they have fulfilled some of their dreams, but they've got other dreams that have been on the back burner but because they've been caught up in the life that they've had, sometimes they feel to make changes, to step into something else that will give them more fulfillment, allow them to live more fully as themselves, it becomes quite scary.
Mm.
And those are the people that I help to find that inner confidence, get clear on what it is they truly want, and find the confidence and the courage to start and find these stepping stones that already exist in their life that will help take them towards what they truly want, what will make them feel fulfilled, give them back their motivation, their joy, their enthusiasm for life.
Tell me more about the inner confidence part. What is the difference between that and the normal confidence we see people exhibiting on the outside?
Sometimes we can put on a show of confidence. We kind of suck ourselves into almost like a separate, maybe a business persona, or if some external, when you're in a certain position, you're doing a certain function, job, you're in a social situation, maybe, that you put on this persona of confidence, whereas inside you're not feeling confident. And I help women find their inner confidence. So their self-belief, that inner knowing that I can do this, whatever the problems, the obstacles along the way. I know who I am and what I'm capable of. And that shines through. And particularly for women who are setting themselves up in business or have reached a point in their business, if they're working in corporate, they've reached a point where they're wanting a promotion. They need that inner confidence to shine through, because that's what people trust. And that also is what enables one to step into new things, even though they might feel scary. That inner belief that I know that I can do this. I can learn whatever I need to learn to fulfill this new part of my life.
When I was looking at your work, you indicated that your turning point was when you were 40 and you lost your job. I wonder if you'd be willing to take us there and share with us that part of your story, which resurrected all this passion and desire in you to help women build the life that they want without hesitation. Would you like to go there and share that bit of yourself?
That was an epiphany for me. It was retrenched the day that I was told. It was mid-afternoon, and I just left the building and went home. And I went back the next day to clear my desk and say goodbye to my colleagues. And I went in mid-morning, and as I parked the car, it felt really weird to be going to work at 10:30 in the morning. And then I realized, of course, there was no work. And I walked up the road to the building with a whole mixture of emotions going through me. I was angry, I was afraid, I was nervous, I didn't know how I was going to face my colleagues. And then suddenly underneath all of that, there was a little spark of joy. And I realized I was glad to be gone out of a job that I'd actually come to hate. And as I allowed that little flame of joy to grow inside of me, I realized that what had been holding me in that job was the salary. I didn't have enough funds behind me to leave that job and explore other options. And I didn't really know what else I wanted to do. So I couldn't just go out and look for another job because I didn't know what other kind of work I wanted to do. And so when that little flame of joy rose up inside of me, I realized I'd been paid. I was retrenched. I was getting a retrenchment package. I'd been paid to leave. That's exactly what I needed. Money to live on, and while I found what I wanted to do. And that change of mindset made such a difference to me. I could step into that building with a smile on my face, confidence in my walk, and go in and say to people, I've been retrenched, and now I'm off to find out what I want to do. And a friend of mine who had been retrenched around much the same time, 6 months later, I was in a new career, started my own business, doing what I loved doing. He was angry, upset, and struggling to find work. And I realized that the change in mindset in me had set me free. And I had gone on, moved on, and I'd started doing what I wanted to do. And he was stuck in his anger and resentment at having been retrenched. So it was a huge difference. And that started my journey on the power of mindset. When you reframe something, and I've seen other people who've been retrenched, and I've told them my story, and that thought that came almost like a revelation. I've been paid to leave a job I didn't like. And I've seen other people's faces light up, and they realize how they can also internalize a reframe of their situation.
Wow. I really like that. When I was reading through your work, you said, my job is to help women do whatever the thing that they want to do without limitations. What I hear from that is that there's an assumption that people know what they want to do. What I do find, I think there's a popular phrase, I don't know who said, whether it was Oprah Winfrey, that people don't die from a lack of desire, motivation, or skills. They die from the lack of knowing. Like, people don't even know what they want. So a lot of people don't succeed because they don't know what they want, not because they're even not skilled or inconfident. They just don't know what they want. So if there was a woman who was in your situation, maybe they just lost their marriage or they just lost their job or whatever the situation is, they feel like the future is not as bright and they don't know what they want. How do they move from that part to a part where they are clear about the things they actually want?
That is part of the process that I take my clients through, is we look at their values. What are their highest values? And how will they live out, how do they want to live out those values in their life? How would they express them? And we also, from that, we can also develop a sense of purpose. And from the sense of purpose, you can develop a vision, which a vision is actually what you see, how you envision what living out your purpose will look like. And that's the practical side of things. How will you know when you've achieved what you know, what you want to do? What will it look like? What will it feel like? And then from there, you can actually make a practical plan, because now you know, I want to do this kind of activity. I want to set up a business, I want to travel, I want to, whatever it is that you desire to do, how are you going to do that? And we can then start to make plans for that.
This process is supposed to take women from where to where?
From feeling unmotivated, perhaps stuck, or what I call having lost their mojo, no motivation and no joy and no sense of direction, to having a very clear sense of purpose, which is gives you direction, and knowing what they want to achieve, specifically what they want to achieve. Because without those specifics, you don't know how to measure your progress.
So is this more like finding your fire, like finding back that fire that allows you to
finding your fire, your passion, and that really that lights you up. What I call your North Star. That thing of that. What is it that lights you up? That you just you talk about it and you become animated and passionate.
So let's go back. From moving to just existing, no purpose, to dragging your feet, wondering if there is even an exciting tomorrow, to finding your fire, getting excited, getting to build, and actually getting to build the life that you want. You've stated a few steps. And the first one is knowing your values. What if they don't know their values? What is the practical way to look at kind of what are my values? Because I have met people at 50 and they didn't know what their values were. So how do we kind of begin to think if we don't know our values?
Look around you. What do you fill your space with? What do you spend your money on? What do you spend time and energy on. Those are some of the first questions that I ask. And then and for instance, in my own life, when I was doing a values exercise many years back, I said books, one of my highest values. And subsequently, I've thought about that and realized it's not the books themselves that I value, it's what they contain. Books, in the days before the internet, were the only way you could acquire information. And even novels, give one an understanding of other people and other places. And so although they're not officially information books, you learn a lot from reading novels. But I also read a lot of nonfiction. And I've read a lot of around personal development and things. So for me, books were access to other worlds, expanding my world, expanding me. And so that was, so if you look in my house is still full of books. But so it's not only when you look at, say, what do you fill your space with? And what meaning do those things have for you?
So is there like a buckets to look? Because if I'm thinking, okay, self-development is a value, is there brackets to look at to kind of go, I value that more than that, I value that more than that? Or is it simply for looking around and creating values like you would have wedding vows where people just stand and create their own vows? Or is there like buckets to look when going, so which of these is higher for me than the other? How do you see values as Marion?
Well, when I take people through a full exercise on how to find their values, there's a list of questions, more than just those few. And then we unpack some of them. What does that actually mean for you? And what are the things that come up in all the questions? What are the things that come up most often? And those will most likely be your highest values. And there's another set of,
So between values, purpose, vision, and how to get there, what I understood is the values. We have to know what we want in life by really understanding what are the values and what do we value more than the other. There is purpose. We're really using our life to trace back why we may be here. There is vision, actually envisioning what is it we want. And there is how, which are the steps to get there. Out of those, I kind of want to extract one and practically do it here on the podcast. Which one is easier for you? Is it the values or the purpose or the vision or the how? We have to demonstrate like one of these so that the person who is listening can tangibly see where we're going with it.
We can do the how, because part of the process is reprogramming the subconscious. And so when you reframe limiting beliefs into supportive, positive ones, that is I use emotional freedom techniques as a process, which enables you literally to rewire your brain. As they say, the neurons that fire together wire together. So by changing the way that you perceive something, you understand something, you can change the way your brain thinks about it. That's.
I want to take you a little bit back. Give me, like, I know my values are self-development. I know my values are family. I know my values are like truth, like being ridiculously standing for the truth. I don't know what that value is, but like truth. Like I have to say the truth even if it hurts. And then so self-development, family, truth. I value being by myself. So I think that solitude is a value of mine. I don't know if it's a value or if just like I value being by myself. I value just hanging with me and my spirit, and I value that silence to think and see and connect. Those are kind of but I also value I value freedom.
Yeah.
Freedom of
We all have a
choice. Hmm. So,
yeah, we all have a variety of values, and we have values that relate to work and values that relate to family and values for self. So, the list is almost endless. It's a
so
case of finding.
walk me there, Marion. You said we have values that relate to work. That's a bucket. You said we have values that relate to family. And then you said we have values that relate to what?
To yourself.
Mm. So I was kind of
So
looking for those buckets. If somebody is hearing this topic for the first time, I want them to go thinking where to look and how to structure their values. That's why I'm very keen. There's family, there's work, and then what? Like, where should they go to start planting the values, if I can say it like that?
I would suggest they take one area of life at a time. And they are struggling. In which area do they feel most stuck, or where is the biggest struggle, the rub? Is it in their family life? Are they feeling unheard, taken for granted, frustrated in some aspect of the family dynamic? Or is it in the work environment? Or are they dissatisfied with themselves? Which part of is it, even it could be a health area of health as well. And which area, start with one. And then look for your value, your highest values there.
So I've written work, family, yourself, faith, health, friends, wealth. I don't know, that's formula somehow in my head. So I've written that. And I was thinking, okay, the person that we want to talk to right now is dissatisfied with maybe, let's say you're that's dissatisfied with your wealth or love. Or just pick one and kind of help us understand how these things play out, how values play out. Just pick for us one. I'm interested in love, wealth, maybe family, maybe work.
I'm going to take the work one, because I know I've got this, I think, illustrated with a story of a woman who, as a child, she was an outdoor child. She loved being outdoors and being with animals and nature. She left school at 16, and her family had this thing that she needed a good job. So she lives in the UK. She took a job. She got a job in the health service there in NHS, and at obviously entry-level clerk. She worked her way up to management, but she hated it. In the interim, she got married and had children, and she was really not coping. Well, she was very frustrated in her job, and she ended up divorcing her husband because she thought that was where the problem was. That it was the relationship that was making her angry and frustrated. And then after the divorce, she realized that actually that hadn't been the main problem. She gave up her job and started a new career. And yet she still had to go back and find out, and do a lot of self-development work. Because, and that was when she realized that one of her highest values is being out in nature. And for all these years, she'd been stuck in an indoor job, which was the exact opposite of her own personal value system. And that had been the problem that had boiled over and ended up with her divorcing her husband, when the relationship wasn't the problem.
Wow. So if you don't know your values, you can end up burning your family to the ground because wow.
Because you are so unhappy inside of yourself. Because our values drive us, even if we don't know what they are on a conscious level. They're there, and we make our choices according to them. But if we don't make choices in alignment with those values, because we allow external forces like this, young woman at 16, leaving school, probably not sure of what things were, and her parents saying, get a good job. And so she didn't do what she really wanted to do, which was find work that kept her outside and active and busy in nature, which would have probably been a harder find than just going into a clerical job.
So then let me put for you an example here, or a question. If the lady who had been very frustrated with her job had come to you before divorcing her husband, how would you have kind of led her back to nature? How was she supposed to know that, oh, it's nature and not my husband? Give us that little bit of snippet of like, how do I know where the problem is if I am just unhappy and I'm just shooting bullets in the air?
We looked at where did she find most joy in her life was being out in nature. And that's when, and then she started to tell me stories about her childhood, and the penny started to drop that this was actually where the issue was, that she had, being an outdoor person who hated the thought of working behind a desk, had done exactly that. She'd gone and worked behind a desk. And so she had violated her own value system.
Would you like to give us another example? I feel like this was really helpful. This is really helpful.
Well, I can give an example from my own life.
Yeah,
where
sure.
As a teenager, I found myself talking to people. I found people, other teenagers, telling me their problems. I was a girl guide. I got into a leadership position, and they function on small groups, and I was a small group leader. And looking back, I can see that the girls who came into that troop, the ones who had some kind of problem, always ended up in my small group. And I realized now that the woman in charge was obviously deliberately putting them there because she knew that I was good at talking to them, helping them, come to terms with themselves and see life a bit differently. And I remember on camping trips, talking late into the night with one girl who was really stuck and, frustrated and unhappy. And that's gone through all my life, but I didn't look for work like that. Books, as I said, were a high priority in my life, even as a child. And people said to me, oh, you can't read all your life. So I thought, well, then I'm going to work with books. And I enrolled I studied as a librarian, and I wasn't unhappy in it, but it didn't bring out my full potential of being able to work with people and help people. And so sometimes we don't have to go right against our values. Maybe we pick up on a secondary value, or when we're young, something is important, and as we age, another value becomes more important than the first one. The first one doesn't go away, but it goes down to maybe second or third place instead of first place. And so I was fulfilling probably my second value, but I wasn't fulfilling my first value.
So then how do we know which is the primary value and which one is the secondary value?
Probably only by working with, sitting down and really thinking it through and thinking about what gives you greatest joy, and what gives you the greatest amount of satisfaction, particularly when you're working with work values. And I'm sure you've heard of people when they want to, younger women, when they're wanting to a relationship that's going to go to marriage, how people say, well, write down all the things that you're looking for in your ideal partner. And that's a way of looking. I know basically that's your values in a really. What do you value in another person? Write them down and look at them. Which ones are most important?
That's really good. Like for me, personal development is fast one. I have to be growing or I'm dead.
Well, that's actually a biological fact. If we are not growing, we are dying. On a cellular level, there is no pause.
For me, it's really like deeply engraved in I am growing, and if I'm not growing, I'm dying. And for some reason, I think I have an expectation on my partner or those around me to keep growing and evolving as well.
Yes.
So
Yes.
I don't know. I still don't know if it helps the listener to kind of bring structure, but the way that I'm looking at what Marion is saying, the buckets of life, work is one of them. Family is one of them. I think work can also be career or business. Like, what are you choosing to do with your career, with your work? There's faith, there's health, there's relationships, there's love, there's wealth. I think looking there and kind of going, but what do I really, really, really like in my life? Like, what is the number one thing? Where do I spend my time? Where do I spend my money? For me, I just buy things, coaching programs, books, retreats, seminars. So, like, where are you spending your time and your money? That's probably the thing you value
So
the
your
most.
money for you, if you're spending your money on books and seminars and retreats, that tells me that's your growing. You're using your money to support your value of growing.
And then I think there's no right or wrong, but like it's like kind of in hierarchy. My husband loves freedom more than the personal development. So for him, his desire to be free financially, location-wise, is higher than my desire to keep growing. And so I also love freedom, but freedom is like number 3 because I do love the growth and then family and then there's freedom. And so for him, freedom is up here. But I do understand like why he has like this freedom up here, and I don't try and drag it down because it's very important for him to be free. So I really think that there is something there for everyone.
And in terms of him, maybe personal development helps him towards his goal of freedom.
The only reason he studies and buys things is so he can be free in the end. Yes.
And then the way he uses money helps him be free. But because you both share that freedom goal and the personal development goal, even though they have different weights for you, one is, your personal development is stronger than his freedom is stronger than yours. But because you both have those values, you can communicate with each other. You share the values, even if they're not at the same level of importance. So at least you still communicate. And the difference in value, the difference in strength of the values also adds a dynamism to your relationship.
I hope that we've started something new to kind of figure out what are your values. The problem is when you don't discover what your values are and don't know them and don't vocalize them or don't write them, you will find that people make you angry. You find that people really get you angry and you wonder like, why am I always angry at this person? That's because they probably are sitting on a value that you value and they don't know it. And you feel like you're being disrespected or you're feeling pressed down or you're feeling unheard. But the problem is your body is telling you that you have unexpected values that you haven't spoken. Like if you're married to someone who doesn't know your values, chances are they'll try to love you and they will not respect your values because they don't know what they are. What then happens is the body is telling you through being angry or being triggered or being, I don't know, like you feel like you're beginning to resent them. And in that case, really what I have found is there is something that is my value and I haven't communicated it. So he doesn't know it. So it is up to me to voice it and tell him what it is and tell him that I don't feel supported if he's not valuing that. I think that really can help in that way, whether it's with your spouse or with other people. I think that's how kind of I look at your values. Sometimes you don't know what they are until people cross them and you feel really gross. You're like, why am I so angry? What is the value in here that has been violated? Is that like accurate to think like that?
And sometimes also we violate our own values. It's what I call saying yes instead of no, because I think a lot of people I can identify with, particularly as women, how so very often we feel obligated to do something to help someone, and even though we don't, we're low in energy, or we've got other things that are prioritizing, but we end up saying yes instead of no. And that's very often can indicate where you are not living true to your own values and allowing other people to other people's values to take precedence over your own.
I really hope we've planted a seed for someone who is there going, I don't know, could be that, could be that. Like, it's really important to know your values and not guess them, because the more you know your values, the more you can protect your space, the more you can love others, the more you can help people help you, the less chaos there can be in your life if you're able to
much more
articulate your
clarity
values.
in what you want and where you're going with your own life.
The better the choices you can make,
Want to live
knowing,
your life.
yeah.
No, like you say, you like a lot of time to yourself.
Yeah.
And if without that, you probably become quite a difficult person to live with, because you will be angry and frustrated.
Probably be cranky. Yeah.
Yes. So it's important for your well-being, plus the well-being of the people around you, that you fulfill that value.
Yeah. Let's drop into purpose. After knowing your values, you need to have really clarity about your purpose. Why are you here in the first place? Why are you on this planet? What is your role on this planet? What is the contract on your soul? Like, why were you given breath? Why were you allowed to live? At birth, why is it that your sperm is the one that survived? Like, why are you here? Why did you make it? You didn't just make it to just exist and die. You made it because there is a calling on your name. There is a purpose to your existence. And so we need to find that. Marion, how else could you tangibly show us how to find our purpose if we're not aware that we could even be here for something bigger than just being what we are in?
Yeah. Well, again, starting with the values, it's a case of I've got, these are my highest value. Once you've identified, these are my highest values, you can then say, how do I want to express these in my life? For instance, you as somebody who likes their own space and time alone, you've chosen to also be married. So you've probably had to negotiate with your husband that you have a lot of alone time. Whereas somebody else who's more sociable might be wanting to have much more together time than you do. Somebody else who likes to spend a lot of time on their own might choose not to marry and to rather live on their own. So you can what do you want? How do you want to express your values? There's an interesting example. It's not really about purpose, but it's a way somebody you can express your values is John DeMartini, a motivational speaker, was helping somebody with these things, and her values were dancing and travel. And she also wanted to increase her wealth. And he said to her, well, create a business where that incorporates both. She was not of an age or physique to become a professional dancer, but she was taking Spanish dancing lessons for fun. So she set up a company where she actually took people on tours to Spain that included learning flamenco dancing in Spain while they were on tour. And that became her business, and how she lived out her three values of dancing, travel, and making money. And in that, probably you'll find that part of her thing was another value might have been having fun and in terms of other people, giving other people fun and satisfaction and learning experiences. And so enhancing other people's lives through what she was doing. Purpose, sometimes purpose can be having a family and bringing up, your kids as best, in a good way, to be good people. It can be changing the world. In South Africa, we've got, it's now an international aid company, well, sort of your NPO, a non-profit organization called Gift of the Givers. And that it started by a doctor who, through a religious experience, a spiritual experience in a religious retreat that he'd been on, he felt called. So that's another form of getting your purpose. He felt called to start this organization. And it has grown, as I said, from a local charity helping people in need to an international company helping do phenomenal work in disaster areas. They even fly mobile hospitals all over the place, where there's a disaster area. They set up a mobile hospital. They have search and rescue teams. So yeah, he has a huge vision, purpose that impacts the world, people around the world. But we don't all have that level of purpose. It's your purpose. It gives you satisfaction and makes you feel that you have made a worthwhile contribution to this world, to the people around you.
I was searching for something as you were talking from Larry Winget. It says, discover your uniqueness and learn to exploit it in the service of others, and you're guaranteed success, happiness, and prosperity. I was thinking about that. That your purpose may be in finding the thing that makes you unique and using it to the service of mankind. Like, I like reading a lot. I like learning a lot. I like developing a lot. I like really stepping into the best version of me. And the more I do that, the more I realize that there's people who are really just living by default. And so I think a part of this platform, I created it because I wanted to use that to kind of attract other people who have done a lot of learning. And so I hope that we can use this platform to impact the world. And so I don't know what your relationship is with this quote, discovering your uniqueness and using it to the service of others. But there's a lot of people that don't know what their uniqueness is. What would you say to that?
I think your uniqueness comes in partly your values, because even though two people can say they've got the same value, they're going to express it in different ways. They're going to it's going to hold different significance for them. So again, it comes back to knowing your values and knowing who you are as a person, that we all have personality traits and things that we do well, and strengths and skills and things. So knowing what are you good at, what do you enjoy doing, where and how, in an ideal world, what would that look like for you, and how are you going to contribute to that, bringing that to fruition? For me, because of a sense of unfairness as a child, I am, whereas 12, when being told that I couldn't do stuff because I was a girl, and not because I wasn't capable, I was too young or nothing, just because you're a girl, you can't do that. And that has fueled my passion to help women be who they really are, so that nobody else has to live by other people's standards. You can live by your own. You can live your own life, and that's my biggest sense of purpose, is a world of where there's equal opportunity, where you can live according to what your values are, what your sense of purpose is. So maybe you want to go out and make a big impact on the whole world, or maybe you want to care for your family and have an impact on that small world of your family, but your family might go out and, make a big impact on the world. So it's not the scale is not important. What's important is that you are living your best life, fulfilling your values in a way that gives you a sense of being, that you've lived a good life and if you've been of value.
As you were speaking, I was writing, like, your purpose can come from your pain. Your purpose can come from the strength. It can come from the uniqueness, but it can also come from the values. A part of my purpose.
Yeah, and it can come from a sense of calling.
A part of my values, I think I discovered it when a coach once said, but Prima, what is the thing that when you see in the marketplace, you feel angry and you want to cry? I said, when I see people misleading others and calling it marketing, when I see manipulation, when I see people bending others' heads using psychology and calling it marketing and calling it service. And they said, there you have it. Keep thinking like that and you will come up with a solution. And so it can be one of the values that you have, which is being violated. Like for me, when I look in the marketplace, truth is violated every day. There's a lot of faking. There's a lot of manipulation. There's a lot of people twisting others. And for me, that activates why I am created and put in the marketplace, because I want to make sure that there's truth in the marketplace. And so I don't know why you'll find your fuel, but just look, is it the pain, the strength, the uniqueness, the values, or really what angers you in wherever you're staying? That can be a very good way to start back to your purpose. I like that.
Or what angers you, or what lights you up? When you
what lights you up,
and you can hear yourself getting passionate or speaking strongly about something. That can be what I call a stepping stone into finding what your purpose is.
So Marion, moving from existing and not knowing where you're going to being fired up about your vision. We've talked about the values. I'm very comfortable where we are. We talked about purpose. I'm very comfortable with how we now understand, how we've led the listener to understand. We're going to vision, or how to envision where you want to go. Help me step into that as well. Yeah.
Your vision is the picture. Now, no, not everybody actually sees things in pictures, but however your imagination works, your vision is the way you imagine your future to be. So let's take it with relationship. I spoke about writing down all the characteristics you want in your partner. When you're still looking for a partner, then from having written them down, imagine being with somebody who's got those characteristics. And what would your life look like? And what would you be doing together? Where would you meet this person? Then you can hang out with in those kind of places. And if you're starting a business, 5 years ahead, how do you want your business to be? And to be specific, do you want an office space? And what's that office space going to look like? And how many people will you have employed by then? In what positions? And how many clients will you have? And once you know those, let's stay with the office one, because it's quite easy to picture. Let's say you need a space you're going to be employed in 5 years' time. You want to have employed 3 people. It's a bookkeeper and a clerk and maybe a sales agent or something. And so to support them, you're going to need to be earning not only how much money you want, but enough money to pay their salaries and the cost of running the office. What do you want the office to look like? You're going to paint it white, or you're going to have colors, or you're going to have open space or individual. So once you've got that picture in your head, you can then start making decisions about, okay, I need to, in 5 years' time, I need to have an income that will support that vision. So how many clients do I need to start bringing on board? How much money do I need to make so that I'm earning enough money to do that in 5 years' time? And what are the steps along the way? Am I first going to employ a sales agent to increase sales, to increase revenue? Do I need an office? Can they work remote? Can we just meet remotely, or in my house or wherever? So we don't need a special office space for the first year. Then do I need a bookkeeper? Then the second year I'll employ the bookkeeper. Can she work from her own home? So I don't yet need to have office space. And so maybe you can bring on those 3 staff members over 3 years, and then only then start looking for physical office space. So you see how, but if you just think, oh, in 5 years' time, I want to earn X amount of money, but you don't have a plan of how you're going to get there, what it's going to look like, what kind of support staff you need, it's going to be hard to get there. Whereas if you know very specifically what you want, you can break down the steps to get there over a time period.
So as in, get as specific as possible. There's one step, though, that I think is very important in all of this, and that is, the problem with most people is they don't even believe it's possible. They don't believe it's possible for them. They don't believe they deserve it. They don't believe that they've never seen it. And so it can be really hard. Like for me, I come from Uganda, and 10,000 a month is like 38 million. So imagine when I made my first 100,000, that was me with around 380 million in a month. The president doesn't make that. And so if you find yourself not being able to hold whatever the belief is, then by all means, allow yourself to expand what is possible for you. Do you need some healing work? Do you need some reprogramming work? Do you need to change your stories? Do you need to have new beliefs? Do you need to trust your guides more? What is it that you need to be able to hold capacity for the dream that you're trying to create? And I think that if you can't get the specificity, as she's saying it, like I wouldn't, without the reprogramming, I wouldn't have been able to see how I can make 100,000 in a month, because the president here is not making that money. And so allow yourself to do the deconstruction that needs to be done, so that whatever the vision is that you're bringing on board has somewhere to sit. What would you say about being specific about where you're going versus getting ready to actually getting yourself in a place where you can get out of your own way? Because I know that when you start to say, I want to build an office with 100 employees, and there's this little voice saying, really? Like, who said, How do we get the little voice out in the window?
Oh, yeah. I have some processes for doing that. But it's also about that self-belief and what is possible. And to make it's easier to start, even if you've got that big goal that doesn't seem possible. You need to start. That was part of the breaking down. What do I need to do now? So your first goal is something that you can achieve. And then when you look at the big goal and you have those thoughts of, I don't know, or that little voice that says, really? You? And then that's where you start the work, that internal work of reprogramming that voice, of rewriting those limiting beliefs. And for me, that 12-year-old little girl that was told that there's some things that she just can't do because she's a girl, rewriting those beliefs And a lot of them go back to early childhood. And that's where that emotional freedom techniques is brilliant, because you don't need to know where you're going, just need to know where you're starting in terms of, I want this, but I don't believe it's possible. And then we would work with that until the thing, and as we work, things will come to mind of, I can't earn that amount of money because the president of the country doesn't earn that amount of money. And we work with that belief. And then, and as things come up, and money is a big one, because we all learn things from our parents, not just what they said, but how they actually behaved around money. What did they prioritize with their spending on money? How did they talk about money? What was the energy they put out when they did the monthly bills? Or when they bought things, were they always worried about money, or were they very generous with money? That we absorb that as children, and that a lot of that has to be rewritten.
So how we move from existing to being fired up, finding the fire within us, and being able to build our best life is, one, take the time to know your values. Like, make it your point to understand what the values are, because the values is what really drives us. Two, find your purpose. You're not just here to breathe and die. You're here because there are lives that depend on you. So is it through your pain, through your strength, through your uniqueness, through your values, through the things you hate, the things that light you up? Start looking there. Like, why am I on this planet? Three is start being clear. What is it that I want? And how can I break it down in a way that is so detailed that I can begin to see it come to life? And if things come up, if those voices come up, if those limitations come up, allow yourself to go through them. Is it inner child that needs to be taken care of? Is it the beliefs like mine? What is it that is coming up as you dream away? And then be clear of, like, what can I do today to start? What is it that I've left out in your process that you feel needs to come out?
And that covers it pretty well, but I'd like to mention that the starting point for change is acceptance. So acceptance isn't about saying, oh, well, that's just the way it is. Acceptance is saying, this is, when I think of stepping out, I get nervous and anxious, and I don't believe that I can earn that amount of money. And that's okay. The president of the country doesn't earn that amount of money. No wonder I don't believe that I can't earn it. That's okay. And when you stop that inner resistance inside of you, saying that part of you wants it and part of it says you can't have it, when you stop that tug of war happening, and you just say, okay, I've got this belief, and you don't judge it as right or wrong, or good or bad, then it sets you free to change it. It's for many of us, when we're struggling, we want something, but there's a part of us that doesn't believe that we can have it. Then that inner struggle takes up so much energy that we can't actually go forward to get what we want. And when you accept that inner struggle and accept the part of you that says you can't have it, then and you can then change that, because you stop judging it, you stop putting that energy of good or bad into it. You just say, okay, if that's a belief, that's what you've heard, but it's no longer true. From now on, I'm believing something else. But it's a process. It's not just but that acceptance is the first thing. And also, if you're feeling anxious and you want to be calm, just accept the fact that you are anxious. You're anxious for a reason, but that you don't have to stay anxious. You can change it. But as long as you're trying to resist your emotions, your limiting beliefs, your the things that feel difficult, just, as long as you put a value judgment on them, that they're good, they're bad, that you shouldn't be this, you should be that, they struggle. It's inner struggle, and that holds you back.
I like what you're saying there. I do have a small system which I use to develop, kind of deal with emotion. I look at emotion as information my body is giving me.
Yeah.
So if I feel anxious or I feel fear, it means I'm living in the past. My body is saying, why are you living in the past? Like, come back to the present. I feel like my body is intelligent enough to kind of know where my compass is. And so if I'm feeling anxious, I take it as I'm living in the future. If I'm feeling depressed, I take it as what are you doing in the past? However, I feel I use it as information to kind of say, what is my body telling me right now? Because it knows best. And right now, it's telling me something. If I feel angry, what is it telling me? If I feel anxious, what is it telling me? If I feel fear, what is it telling me? And you can use that to empower yourself or disempower yourself. But I think what she's saying is receiving information without judgment.
Yes. And that, yeah, your process is very helpful. And there's also that saying that emotion is energy in motion, emotion. And if emotions and feelings are meant to move, they move through your body. So if you don't hold on to them, they will change. They will move through your body, and you change it, and you'll feel something else a few minutes later. It's when we hold on to those emotions by living, think, oh, I'm angry. And then you kind of keep replaying that angry loop, and you stay angry, where you say, oh, I'm angry. And I'm angry. And what am I going to do about it? Am I going to hold it? I'm going to let it go. And I'm going to take action on it. Do I need to just reflect on something? Emotions. It's when we hold on to those emotions. And Byron Katie says, it's the emotional attachment to the story we put on, we create around what happens to us that causes us distress. So when you're in a situation, or if something has happened, and you start to say, oh, this makes me feel bad, or angry, or whatever, and then you say, well, then you make a story around it, that why are you feeling bad, and then you play that over and over and over, and you just get stuck there.
I really like how you're saying this, because it's, first of all, the story. Marion got laid off in her 40s, and she could have decided to create a story around that. Which story then would steal her inner confidence, because now she doesn't feel good enough. But how does Marion then get to build the life she wants, knowing that she was laid off and thinking that she's not good enough? We have to have a process where we take care of the stories, the limiting beliefs, and all of the things, the trauma, and everything that is holding us back from moving past I've been laid off to now I can live even a much better fulfilling life. Therefore, the process that we went through, which is understanding your values, and then knowing what you're here, and then getting to really be clear of what is it that we actually want, and then taking care of everything that is cropping up on our way to building that life. And accepting that we are going to set our goals, and the how does not belong to us. Marion, give me an idea of how you deal with not knowing the how of things.
Well, I'm going to say, there was one of my clients was a realtor in America, and a real estate agent in some other parts of the world. And this was her dream job. She'd given up whatever other work she was doing. She'd gone into this real estate, but with the vision of making a lot of money. But she never got past selling sort of middle income housing. So she was making money, but it was just enough. She wasn't making the extra money that she wanted. And when I met her, when she came to me, she was feeling very stuck and demotivated. And then she said to me, somebody had approached her about a waterfront property in this town that she lived in. And she said, but I don't know anything about that area, and the houses are so expensive, and and I've never sold a house of that price. And we did some work with her. It was a process of reframing her beliefs. And the next week she said to me, I've realized the sale process is exactly the same. It's only the amount of the value of the house that's different. And that reframe for her changed her whole approach. She took on the client. They bought the property. She found them a property, and there were some complications in the actual, moving in and stuff, including the pantechnic and getting stuck. But because she'd done the research on that area, she knew somebody in the area had a tractor. She didn't know who, or she knew the name but she didn't know which house he lived in. So she went door to door till she found this guy with a tractor. And he came and rescued the pantechnic, and that it got stuck in mud. And then at the end of that, he said to her, oh, will you sell my property as well? So just that shift in her mindset from being scared of selling a high ticket property in a waterfront regulations and things around it that she wasn't familiar with. When she changed her mindset to say, well, the sales process is the same, I can find out the information I need, went for it. She not only got that one, she got a second one with it.
Wow.
Mindset is amazing. If you just
The mindset is your seal,
but it's working with the subconscious mind that's really important, because that does 95% of our thinking. That holds all those beliefs and that inner voice and all of that stuff that holds us back.
Marion, it's been such a pleasure having you here today. I want you to talk to us more about the things you do behind the scenes, because I know that you practically take people through the process. So if you're going, I still don't know what my values are, or you're going, I still don't know what my purpose is, or you're going, I still don't know what I want to do. I don't know what my vision is, or you're like, you don't know my situation. There is no way that's possible for me. Marion still helps people hand on hand through this process with your circumstances, with where you are and everything. But I would like for you, Marion, to talk through how you help people, if you have anything in the back, if you have programs, courses, and all of that, so that the listener can kind of go and catch up with it.
Yes, I do one-to-one work. Where we work specifically with an individual's issues. What are their goals? What are they wanting to achieve? What are the obstacles that they are facing? I also do programmed work, either individually or in groups. And the main one then is an 8-week course, Discover Your North Star. And that's the process we've been talking about of identifying your values, your purpose, your vision, and how you want to live that out. And what aspects of your life can you use, your present life, can you use as stepping stones so you almost, when you discover your North Star, you also discover that actually you've already started that journey. You just need to get clearer on it. On how to get there, and instead of get onto the highway instead of taking all the byways. And then I also offer shorter courses, 4-week one on setting goals and getting clear on how to actually set goals that you can achieve, and another one on procrastination, a 3-week one on procrastination, so you stop putting things off.
We'll be putting all the links that lead to Marion's work in the show notes. So her website will be on there. A link to schedule a call will be there. Her courses will be there. Feel free to scroll through the show notes and kind of see more about her work. Ultimately, the best way you can move this message is pause and go. Who in this world would find that this work is life-changing for? who is in a place where they don't know where they're going, they don't know what their values are, they don't know what their purpose is. They've probably been laid off their job, or they've just had a divorce, or whatever the circumstance is. They've just been through midlife crisis, and they really do not know where they're going with their life. Or maybe there's been a tragedy in their life and they don't know how to move on from there. They don't know how to create the life that they want. They don't know how to create their best life, or they don't even believe that the best life is still existing or available for them. Who do you know that could use some fire in their life? If you know someone like that, all you have to do is share this with them in their private space. And if it's you, get on the calendar, get with Marion, get to work. This is an intuitive podcast, which means in your bone marrow, you feel, you know if the expert is for you or not. So pause and feel into that spirit of yours and ask yourself, is this the person to take you forward? Usually you will know by now. You probably will be saying, Prima, where is the link? Stop wasting my time. So if you've been feeling the calling, the connection between your soul and Marion's soul, now is the time. Grab any of the links and hopefully she can take you further with where you're going with your life. Marion, this is where we bring this to a close. What would be your closing words of wisdom for us?
I think it's that, yeah, there's a three-part process that underlies it all. Is that acceptance that I spoke of earlier. Stop judging where you are, accept it so that you can move on. Then take responsibility for your life. Wherever you are now, you are the only person who can change your life. And so blaming other people for where you are, or for being in your way, or lack of money or whatever, stop blaming and just say, this is where I am. I don't want to stay here. How do I get out of here? I'm the person who has to make the changes. And that last one is knowing exactly, having an idea of where you're going. Even if the changes along the way, at least start with a direction. Because if you don't start going in a specific direction, you go nowhere. So that's what I call, it's what I call the arc process. Acceptance, responsibility, and knowing where you're going to go, where you're going to, knowing where you're starting, and which direction are you going to take your first steps in, and as you say, the how comes as you go. We don't have to start knowing how we're going to get to where we want to go, but we do need to know where we're going.
The thing I can end with is the what belongs to you, the how does not. So by all means, give up trying to figure out the how before you walk. I'll give you a quick story before we close. Some people think I was born fired up and excited. No. I had a lot of doubts. I had a lot of imposter syndrome coming in the marketplace. My biggest problem, or my biggest block, was that I come from Uganda, where there is nothing but poverty and hunger. And why would the global market listen to me? Like, what would someone who probably was born in New York City or whatever the country is want from a Ugandan who was born in a place where kids are starving? That was my block. Like, why would anyone care what I have to say? I come from like a country where people literally don't have food. And I recall I was going along with my blog from place to place, book to book. I listened to Oprah. I kept with my blog. I listened to Tony Robbins. It didn't break it for me. I listened to everyone that I thought would help. And they all said, it's in you. You gotta get up. You gotta believe that you deserve it and move. And I was like, you don't come from Uganda. You have no idea. And so I kept moving with my blog. And one day I met this guy called Nick V something. He has a business called Life Without Limb Ministries. And this guy has no arms, he has no legs. He stood on a stage of thousands and thousands of people and he said, hey, I'm Nick, a man with no legs, no arms. I could sit here and cry and feel pity about myself and beg on the street for food. Or I could literally find why the heck I was put on this planet and change lives. I looked at him I looked at his wife. I looked at his kids. I looked at his energy, and my block evaporated. I said, if this guy can do it with no arms, no legs, Prima, forget Uganda, you can do this. And I kid you not, that is when I allowed myself to create a personal brand and bring an impact. And so my message usually with this kind of talk is, whatever you think disqualifies you is the very reason why you're qualified to do the thing that you've been brought on this planet to do. So quit talking small about yourself and get moving. Because there's one person in this planet, in this world, that only you can influence. Nick is the only person on this planet who allowed me permission to build my brand. Why? Because he has no legs, no arms. The same two reasons that could have kept him a best kept secret, saying I can't do it because I have no arms, no legs. He used those things to give me permission to go, I can do it. And now I'm giving you permission to do the same. If I can do this, if I can impact lives from Uganda, a place with like no food, no nothing, starving kids, I don't know what your excuse is. I want you to hold it and put it in a cupboard, whatever those reasons are, and look at them like spices. And I want you to look at your life, whatever you're trying to build, as a 5-star course meal, which includes all of the ingredients. Because I come from Uganda, I have a certain flavor. Because I've seen kids die of starvation, I have a certain flavor. Because I have seen myself being blocked by how much money I can make, I have a certain flavor. Because I come from a country with barely any power and internet, I have a certain flavor. And those can be blocks, or they can be flavors in a container that I can put together and make a 5-star course meal that no one else can make, which becomes my signature meal. So the question to you, my friend, is what is your signature meal that you're not creating because you're not seeing the things that disqualify you as these little spices that make up the meal? I hope this was helpful to you. Have a great one, and I'll talk to you soon. And Marion, thank you so much for being a part of our show, a part of the podcast, a part of the imperfect message, where we bring messages and mold them and make them better and help people along the way. And I hope that it's been a great experience for you, but really appreciate you for coming through, being vulnerable and sharing your message in every way of the process as you've gone through it. So really thank you for being with us.
Well, thank you. I've enjoyed talking to you, and yeah, it's been, and I loved your analogy of the spices. I think that's really wonderful.
All right, until next time, my friends. Okay. Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Thank you for joining this conversation on the world's best kept secret podcast today. If you feel ready to stop keeping your work a secret, head over to primajope.com and request a free conversation. Until next time, please remember that there's no prize in keeping your work a secret.